Hello and welcome to the Villa Talks podcast. Back after a long hiatus. I'm back this week with Chadsy, mate. Chadsy, how you doing?
Mate, thank you. Thanks for having me. Good to see you back after a
Yeah,
little bit of a break.
yeah. Good to have you back on, mate. It's been a while. Can't remember the last time you were on. Was it the 100th episode? Was it?
Pre-Emery, definitely. We were talking
For
about
Emery.
Gerrard. Yeah, it was the
Yeah,
end of Gerrard's reign, so a bit happier times now.
yeah. That was a bit of a depressing moment, wasn't it, for the 100th episode? But since then, obviously, it's been well, definitely looking up, aren't we? I would say.
Yeah, I think so. It feels really promising at the minute. There's been some really good results, excluding the abomination against Stevenage. Obviously, these things can happen in sport, and it was pretty unforgivable, the performance they turned out that day. But I think in the long run, that'll benefit Emery, knowing who he can trust and who he can't trust from that fringe squad. Probably had a few harsh words to say after that, but all in all, I think it's been an absolutely superb start from the manager. I think it's 13 points out of a possible 18, which is Europa League form, if not better. And some of the stuff we've seen has been really positive. There's been some really good football at times, defensively solid, but also winning when we're not playing that well as well, which is the difference, I think, between a top elite manager and
Mm.
essentially what we had before, which was an ex-footballer pretending to be a manager.
yeah, definitely. We'll come on to the mid-season review and talk about what's gone right, what's gone wrong, where we go from now. Look at the transfer window as well. Obviously, big news with looks like Danny Ings might be on the way out, so we'll talk about that. A few in the comments already talking about that, so be interesting to hear Chad's thoughts on that. Just before we start on there, let's quickly take a step back and go a few days back to the Leeds game. You were there. Firstly, what was the atmosphere like at the ground, obviously, after the Stevenage game, coming off the back of that? And then what your thoughts on the overall performance of the team?
And the atmosphere was quite positive, to be honest. I think night games obviously always generally be a bit better of an atmosphere. Sometimes the Fridays can be a bit flat, but it was a good atmosphere. And obviously the early goal helped massively with that. But then in the second half, when the team needed the fans to get behind them, the whole team responded really well. And I think the words that Emery came out with just in advance of the game around needing the energy of the fans and trying to build that relationship. And I mean, it's pretty easy common sense PR from the manager, but football fans, we lap it up. He's only got to say a few things around the connection and how important the fans are. And, we
Yeah,
lap it up. And for me, that is really important because that's the game where the fans did help the team get over the line, I believe.
yeah,
And if it was flat and if it was a bit morbid, I think Leeds would have potentially taken the game to us a bit more and maybe gone on and got something from that game, which would have dented the momentum massively after what happened the previous week. So yeah, and I think the performance was good enough. I think there's been a lot of talk this week from Leeds fans, Jesse Marsh, even the press I saw after around how Leeds should have won, deserved to win, dominated, but there's no context to that conversation because we scored a goal after 2 minutes, which changes the whole game, which changes the whole momentum, which changes both teams' game plans. And I think if we don't score a goal after 2 minutes, Leeds don't have all that possession, they don't create those chances, and we probably take the game to them a bit more than we had to. So goals change games, and I think at the end of the day, goals are all that matter. Obviously, Jesse Marsh talks about performance, and Leeds were okay. They created some chances, got a bit unlucky at times. But like I said, I think if we're not 1-0 up after 2 minutes, the whole the way that game plays out is very different.
yeah. I've gone into a bit of a habit scoring early, haven't we, under Emery as well, which has been great to see. Not something we've done too often over the years, and
Yeah,
some
and I
impressive.
wonder as well. Sorry, I was just scared. I wonder
Hmm.
whether it's a Villa decision to be attacking Holt End in that first half. We seem to have done that quite a lot recently, and I think it's working well, to be honest.
Yeah, definitely. I think, yeah, the commentators made a point of that on Sky. Obviously, you were at the game, but you wouldn't have heard. But they made a point of Emi Martinez switching ends. That's been something we've done a few times this season. So yeah, it's interesting. It's interesting because historically, obviously, we've always grown up as attacking the
Yeah,
whole end second half. So it seems to be working, and it's also nice to see us have an average performance but still get a result. Something that we don't do very often as well. Some standout performances for you on the day or the
I
evening
think
itself.
I think Kamara was outstanding. He's just superb. He seems to have it all. I don't think he's had a bad game in a Villa shirt yet. He's box to box. He's got energy. He reads the game really well. He can pass. He turns on the ball. He plays progressive passes and turns and plays it forward and looks to attack. He's not just your defensive midfielder that gets it and passes it sideways and hopes someone else does something with it. He seems to be the complete midfielder, not obviously to get too carried away after a couple of months, but I think he's someone that we can really build a team around, and his performance on Friday was just outstanding.
Yeah, really was. Really shone, and a class above, really. And something we've been missing for a long, long time. I can't actually remember the last time we've had a complete midfielder like that. Even under Martin O'Neill, you could maybe point to James Milner at times, but I think in terms of attributes, in terms of what he's got, potential as well, because he's still very young. Let's not forget. And the fact that we've got him on a free is staggering, really. And the longer we can keep him, the longer he can be a key part of our team, the better, I think. And now we've got Martinez and him, I would say, are the two sort of standout players in terms of the level that they play at. If we can get a centre back, maybe Diego Carlos is that man when he comes back in. Obviously, I wouldn't expect too much of him for the season, but maybe next season. And then a striker, obviously, as well, is the other one. If we can get that core sorted and get that same sort of world class level, maybe elite class level, potentially all those players, then that'd be a great foundation to build on. Apart from that, obviously, let's quickly just finish off on the Leeds game. The first goal, Kamara obviously starts Young's great ball, isn't it? Really good vision to get Kamara through Kamara's legs, and then Leon Bailey as well, who's split opinion in the fan base, and I admit at times I've absolutely loved him. At times I've been thinking why the hell have we signed him? He's one of those players, but very typical for a winger, isn't it? To be blow hot and cold, I suppose.
Yeah, inconsistent, sometimes brilliant, sometimes very frustrating. I think he has got that end product in him in terms of being able to finish and take his chances, and I think he is a confidence player. And as he gets fitter, gets more games under his belt, feels like he's trusted by Emery and probably trusted by the fans, I think he will be that sort of player that takes his game to the next level, maybe as this season progresses or next. But there are a few areas to his game that need finessing. He doesn't always pick the right path. He always maybe sometimes tries to do one too many things when he should be looking for a supporting runner. But he's definitely a talented lad. I can see why people do get frustrated with him, but he's a sort of player that you've got to get behind. You've got to realise that frustration won't help anyone. And I think if we really get behind and really back him, he can influence this team and help take it to the next level.
Do you think it's maybe slightly unfair on him, given the price tag he's come in with, given the expectation, given the reputation he's had coming into the team? People were expecting maybe too much of him to start off with, and obviously the injuries he's had as well. But I mean, if you look at the stats this season in the Premier League, he's got 4 goals, 2 assists, which isn't too bad in a team that's really struggled to create and has only really got into the groove in the last sort of 4 or 5 games.
Yeah, I don't think the injuries helped at all. I think when he scored that goal against Everton last season, if he didn't come off injured after that, who knows what he might have gone on to do last season. And injuries do play a massive part in sport. It takes a long time to get back to match fitness. And like I said, it's a massive confidence plays a big part in any sport. But I think when you're a winger and you're relied on for your end product and what you can do at the top end of the pitch, and ultimately you're judged on numbers, it is important to get that momentum, be playing regularly, and have the confidence, like I said, of the manager and the fans. So I think I don't feel like we expect too much of him. I just think like we need to give him the patience and time to deliver that, and I think he will.
Good, and then obviously he's involved. The first goal scores the goal, and the second goal obviously he's involved heavily as well with the shot. And Buendia follows up and heads it away, thinking it was offside, but it was clear to see he was onside. And then late goal by Patrick Bamford made it a little bit nervous, as it always does with Villa. And at the end, we get the result, and that's the most important thing. And we move on to the Southampton game now, which we'll sort of preview later on in the episode. But let's do the sort of mid-season review then. It's 19 games gone in the season so far. Fair to say it's been it's been ever interesting as it always is being a Villa fan. But what were your hopes and expectations going into the season under Gerrard, and how do you feel about what's happened so far?
Yeah, I mean, I think at the start of the season we were saying that the money we spent over the last couple of years and the way we dropped off a cliff towards the end of last season, a realistic but ambitious expectation for the season was to try and get into the top half. I think European football was definitely going to be a stretch for Gerrard, and obviously the way we started the season, it quickly became apparent that that was going to be miles off, and we were in a relegation battle. And to be fair, the club acted really swiftly on that and got the job done in terms of getting in what is definitely our best qualified manager I think the club's ever had in terms of CV and experience. He's a genuinely elite manager.
Mm-hmm.
I think we're now in a position as a club that we have to make this work with Emery. If Emery can't make it work and we can't push on now and finish in the top 10 this year, maybe have a push for top 8, top 6, who knows, with a good run, but consolidate this year, finish in the top half, get his squad together, clear out some dead wood, get a few of his players in over the next few transfer windows. We have to next season. We have to qualify for Europe, in my opinion, purely because if it doesn't happen now with this manager, it never will happen under these owners. It feels to me much like the Randy Lerner era, in that there's only so much patience these foreign owners will have before they realise what we're in this for. We've spent the money. We've tried X amount of managers. We've tried this elite manager with God knows what on his CV, and we still can't make it work. So I think the pressure is on Emery next season, but he's definitely the right man for the job. It feels like the fans are backing him. It feels like the fans will give him the time to make it work. So it's really exciting times. And actually, if we do get on a good run, who knows? We might be able to do something special this season and get in that top 8. We are only 6 points off Fulham in 6, so we're not a million miles away. But we don't have massive depth in the squad, and it's a tough league. There are no easy games. We're going to preview Southampton, but it's not a given that we're going to go there and get 3 points by any stretch. So, but yeah, I'm feeling optimistic. He's the right man for the job.
I'm just going to cut you there. I didn't actually realise. I saw the Danny Ings rumours. We were going to talk about it, but Fabrizio Romano has actually tweeted about 15 minutes ago, and I missed the comments. But West Ham have reached full agreement to sign Danny Ings from Aston Villa.
Wow.
Full package close to 15 million, add-ons included. Personal terms almost agreed. Here we go. What are your thoughts on that?
I think it's good business for Villa. He is a good finisher, and he is our top goal scorer this season. And it's very frustrating that it hasn't worked for him at Villa. I wanted him to be that 25, 30 goal a season man. And when we signed him last season, was it, or the season before, I was very excited. But I just don't think he's cut out now for leading the line as a lone striker in the Premier League. Most teams play with one. He will score goals for West Ham. He will keep West Ham up. I think it's good business for them. But obviously, selling a striker means I'm sure Emery's got his own plans now. We brought in the Colombian lad earlier in the week, who I don't know a huge amount about, if I'm honest. But hopefully that means there's going to be some money to spend now for Emery to go out and get a hitman of his own. So good business all round, in my opinion. It hasn't quite worked for Ings at Villa.
Yeah, I'd agree. With that. I think when we signed him, I think he was the best striker we could have got, proven striker we could have got at that time, in terms of, outside Kane, Salah, and a couple of others at that top level. He was the next one, really, in terms of goals and goal record and pedigree. Obviously, he was at 28, 29 when we signed him. It was a fair chunk of money, good money for Southampton. But I think always the worry was, how were we going to fit him, Watkins, in? Did he suit the way we played? And I don't think he's been helped at all by the managers as well. I don't think Dean Smith, did he actually want him? Was it more of a Perslow signing? Did Dean Smith really know what kind of formation or style he wanted to play? And then Gerrard, again, he was lost, wasn't he? Never really had any chances. Never was, there's not much creation going on behind him as well. It wasn't a great team to be involved in. And Emery, to be fair to him, he's done well when he's come on, and his goal record, I think, is 1 goal every 140 odd minutes. It's pretty good. You can't argue with that. But I think the fact he's on £120,000 a week, the fact that we spent, was it 30 million? Was he 30 million, 25 million? I can't remember now.
25, yeah.
Yeah, 25. The fact we spend that much money on him, the fact that he's going to be turning 31, in 6 months' time, whatever it is, his contract's probably got 18 months left after that. It's his value goes down and down. And for a player that doesn't really suit the style probably that Emery wants to play, i.e., someone who's pacey, who can play in the counter, who can hold the ball up, then I think he's always going to struggle. He's a great player, I think, to bring on as a sub and impact the game as we saw against Wolves. And he is the best finisher at the club, no doubt. So I can see the rationale. I can see, again, 50 million for him is pretty good business from a FFP perspective, if that still exists. I think we're pretty much break even on that point then. And then getting the wages off the book is obviously a massive thing. The issue for me is, Watkins is I think he's injured, isn't he? Or struggling with an injury. John Duran is 19 years old, unproven, obviously very highly rated, and potentially could be a fantastic player, but we just don't know at this point. It's, Camerata's gone out on loan. You'd expect us to be bringing in someone else in. Who that is, I don't know. But if we don't bring anyone in, then I'll be really worried for the rest of the season. We do need to bring someone else in, especially if Watkins is struggling with injuries.
But I agree with everything you said there, and I wouldn't be surprised if we announce a striker tomorrow, a new player tomorrow that no one's ever heard of, and we haven't been linked with, and Villa have just gone about their business and got the job done as they have been doing over the last few years. So I trust they'll get someone in.
Yeah, I agree. I think I'll be surprised if they don't. I think the track record, I don't think our signings have always been great, and I think there is definitely potential changes coming in terms of Langer, McKenzie, etc. How the back room works, and Emery's obviously got a lot more control on signings. But I think when monies need to be spent, and we've needed to bring players in or try and improve the squad, they've definitely attempted to do that every time. So I trust them to make the effort and get someone in. Looks like it could be Delafeo or Danjuma, one of those two. Could be anyone. John Duran came out of nowhere, did it? We had no idea. I think there was maybe one rumour a couple of weeks ago, but it was just us. We're amongst a host of clubs that were linked with him, and then suddenly we've just signed him. So you never know with Villa. What kind of sort of profile of striker would you like to get, given the way that you think that Emery wants to play?
I think we need Benteke back, someone like that, someone that can really lead the line, someone that can hold the ball up, someone that's powerful, someone that offers us an aerial threat as well when we do need to play a different way, a bit more of a threat on set pieces. I think when you've got Ollie Watkins and then potentially Leon Bailey, Buendia, maybe a Danjuma and a Delafeo, someone like that, I think, and you've got enough quick, diminutive, skillful players that can create chances, getting behind, stretch defenders, I think you can have someone like Benteke. I'm not saying we're going to sign Benteke. I mean, that sort of profile of player. And you never know, Duran might be that guy. I don't know a huge amount about him. I've watched the YouTube videos like everyone else has, but I'm not going to profess to know anything about him. But I'd love to see someone like that back, because Benteke was no slouch either. He could get him behind. He was powerful enough to hold off that last man and get him behind and beat keepers from a one-on-one perspective. I don't think someone like Ings or smaller, like I say, more diminutive player like that will work for us. So yeah, that's what I'd be looking at if I was a recruitment man at Villa. If I was Johan Lang or whoever's signing the players nowadays.
Yeah, I mean, John Duran definitely seems to be that kind of profile of player. He's and I've seen a lot of, like you, I've probably maybe watched him without even realizing I watched him, if that makes sense. I've never ever really looked into him or known of him really. But obviously looking at the YouTube videos, but reading all the scouting reports, it seems like everyone thinks that he's going to be, he could be a complete striker in terms of, he's really physical, really strong, good in the air, but very good with his feet. Can hit, can score with both feet, predominantly left-footed, I think. So yeah, one for the future definitely. Whether he can hit he's still. I think he's come to the UK to finalise the deal, but then he's probably going to go back to play for Colombia under 21s. So when is he actually going to play? I'm not too sure. So you'd expect someone to come in. Yeah, I'm with you. I think someone like Benteke would be perfect, really. And yeah, my slight concern with being like Delafeu, Danjuma, got Bailey, Buendia, Watkins. These are all, as you say, diminutive type. All of them are wingers, really. Even Watkins is a winger converted into a striker. Wingers or wide players or attacking midfielders. An out striker we don't have in the club yet, really, do we? If Ings goes, so definitely want to look at. And apart from that, the other links that we keep seeing are midfielders as well. So we're linked with Guendouzi and now Unai. I don't know how to say his name actually. The Moroccan player who's really, really impressive. Plays for Angers. Linked heavily with both of them as well. So it looks like we're looking at a midfielder. Maybe Sanson's on his way out. What do you make of the midfield makeup at the moment in terms of, obviously Douglas Luiz and Kamara seem to be the main two, but then you've got Dendoncker, McGinn's played on the right quite a bit. Yeah. Sanson, whether he's going to stay or not. Do you think we need a midfielder?
I do. I desperately think we need to upgrade on Luiz personally. Somebody to sit with Kamara and offer a bit more than Luiz does. So for me, central midfield is the one area I still think that we can massively upgrade. Obviously, McGinn's to come back in as a squad player, as a potential third man to have if we play a 3. He's played wide for Emery in that sort of right-hand side or and at times on the left. I love Jacob Ramsey. He could be a box-to-box midfielder. He can play off the left. He's a great squad player. But I think Kamara's come in and shown the difference a quality midfielder can make. And I think having one more in there alongside him would massively improve this team and this squad. And I know it's not the fashionable thing to say, and I know people don't agree with me on Luiz, but he's just not good enough for me. And he's had his time. He's had his chance at Villa. He's been here 3.5 years in the Premier League, and I can count on one hand the amount of standout performances he's put in. In my opinion, he doesn't do enough. He doesn't score. He doesn't assist. He shirks out of 50-50s. And he's a very talented footballer who plays for Brazil. He'll probably go on to play for someone decent if he did ever leave Villa. He's a great passer of the football. He's a very talented lad, very composed, very calm. But for me, he just doesn't do enough. So if we could upgrade him, I think we're on to something really special in that midfield area alongside Kamara.
Yeah. I mean, I know we've butted heads on this before, haven't we? And yeah, I guess we'll get your points. But I do think Luiz in the last sort of 5 or 6 games has gone onto a different level and has been helped massively, to be fair, by Kamara. I think the fact you have Kamara, who's sometimes like 2 players, does massively help Luiz and gets that burden off him. And defensively, I think Luiz it can be poor, but I think Kamara allows him to be a little bit more forward thinking, and obviously scored against Tottenham as well. And I think he's one of these players, and he becomes a bit of a cult hero because of what he's done in terms of scoring from the corner. Being Brazilian and all that. So I do think there's room for improvement, but he's still very young, and I think he's been. I've said it previously on other podcasts. I think he's been one of our better players this season, and I stand by that. Whether he's good enough to get us onto the next level, I don't know, not too sure. But I like Douglas Luiz, and I think he'll be a key part of the team for now. But I do think that midfield definitely does need to be improved. And it seems to be looking for a bit like a Sanson player with a bit more physicality, someone who can dribble the ball, who's box to box, and can do well in both boxes, and can play alongside Kamara and Luiz, maybe a proper 8, I suppose.
We need a proper 8. Does it at both ends of the pitch?
Yeah.
I mean, you can't say someone's poor defensively. And carry them in a team unless they're contributing at the other end, which he doesn't do either. And I know he has played well this season at times. I know he was brilliant at Tottenham. I know he has had a few standout performances, but everyone talks about them as if they're big wow moments. That's what I expect. That's what I want my midfielders to be doing every single week. That performance at Tottenham was a complete anomaly for me. Getting forward, and I know it's up to the management of what they ask him to do, contributing goals, dynamic, turning on the ball, playing forward, progressive passes. He's got it within him, clearly, because he has done it at times, but it's just, for me, just so frustrating. But it's a game of opinions, and I know not many people agree with that. So clearly I'm in the minority, which is fine.
Well, this is why we do podcasts, isn't it?
Yeah, but at some point we've got to realise that you can't keep doing the same things and expect different results. Like this team has been stagnant now. If we want to kick on, we need better players. We need to
Yeah,
upgrade that midfield
bang on,
significantly, or
bang
else
on.
we will just keep finishing between 10th and 15th.
Yeah, no, bang on. I completely agree with that, and I think the midfield's key. You know, when we've played well, whenever we play well, whenever we have put in a good performance, the midfield is because the midfield's played well, and
Where the game's won, isn't it?
yeah, and you need that to be a consistent part of your team, which still isn't. Let's be honest. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens. Morgan Sanson, a big disappointment, really, isn't it? We spent 15 million on him. He was meant to be the number 8. They're meant to be the box to box, and you know, I think he's shown flashes. You know, he's still, a lot of fans still really like him and think there's a player there. But 3 managers have come and go now and not picked him.
Villa fans have got this strange obsession with loving players that can't get in the team.
Yeah,
You know, like Fred Gilbert. Fred Gilbert, I mean, that's for some reason just a complete fan favourite, despite being terrible for us and not being able to convince 3 or 4 managers that he was any good.
yeah,
Totally bizarre.
yeah. It is a bizarre trait. It's every player becomes amazing when they're not in the team.
Yeah,
It's I don't know if it's a Villa thing or it's a football thing, but
probably
definitely see it.
football thing. Yeah,
Yeah, but yeah, Sanson is a shame. I do think there's a player there. He's obviously shown it in the Champions League. He's shown it for Marseille. And he's shown flashes, like I say, for us. But you know, the fact that 3 managers have seen him in training, have not been happy with him, does it point to an attitude thing? Does it point to not putting enough effort in training, or does it point to another? You know, it could be a bigger thing. It could be the board or whoever saying, "Look, we've spent 15 million of him. We need to get him out, but it's not worked. Whatever, don't play him, or try and get a move for him, or whatever it is." So it is what it is. But he's still sort of involved in the squad, isn't he? He's come on a few times, but it's a lot of strong rumours that he's going to be on his way out as well. And I think that'll be a lot this window, don't you think? In terms of potential transfers, I can't see too much more happening apart from that. Obviously, Moreno's come in as left back, which
I think
was a bit of a surprise.
bit of a surprise, but obviously, if he wants 2 in that position and Augustinson's going to be moved on, then that's fine. Yeah, I think if we get a midfielder and a striker, it's been a good window, and obviously he's looking at one of those wide players, Danjuma or Deulofeu. But yeah, this news on Danny Ings is really interesting. So I would expect now, and I'm quite interested to see what we do up front.
Yeah, I think that's going to be the key one, isn't it? Especially for the rest of the season. You know, I think that if we, depending on who we get, it's going to make a big impact on the rest of our season and whether we can push onto the top 10 or even top 8, as we've talked about. You know, it's so close, isn't it? At the moment, Crystal Palace obviously drawing with Man United yesterday. I think they were on 18 points. We're on 22 on level points with Chelsea. Fulham, Brentford, Brighton, all doing really well. Fulham, a big surprise, I would say. But the second half of the season is key now, because you'll see quite often sort of newly promoted teams have a really good run and do well first half of the season and sort of fall away second half of the season when the matches come thick and fast and injuries and squad depth gets put to the test. But you know, I think we've got a good opportunity, don't you think, now compared to where we thought we were going to be, to actually push on to the top 10 now under Emery. The only concern, I suppose, is the fact that we've won 4, 5 out of 6, 5 out of 7 games, drawn 1, lost 1, and we're still not in the top 10. You know, that's a hell of a run to go on and not be in the top 10.
No,
I suppose it shows how bad
it
we were
shows.
before.
Yeah, it shows how bad we were, and it shows that the form Emery's got us in terms of points per game. If he can carry that on and match that some sort of consistency, then we will make it. Whether that is sustainable or not, I don't know. For me, the next 2 games are just absolutely massive. If we can start the second half of the season winning away at Southampton and beating Leicester at Villa Park, that would really shift the momentum, I think, because there's been so many times over the last year or two, we're talking about it on the way back from the Leeds game, where we've had the sort of run of winnable fixtures. We've had 3 games on the trot where we could and maybe should win them. And we've looked at them. I think it was Leeds last season when we threw away the 2-goal lead, and we had a couple of winnable games after that. And you look at the fixtures thinking, right, can we get 7 or 9 points out of these 3 games? Or maybe 9. If we can get 9, we're really kicking on. And we never, ever crack on and actually win those winnable games consistently or in a run. So starting off that run of games last week with a win at Leeds, can we now go to Southampton and really back it up with a good away win and then back it up again at Villa Park? For me, if you can win 3 games on the trot on the turn of the halfway point of the season, that would really shift the momentum and confidence. I think that we can crack on. But if we draw this weekend or lose this weekend and draw against Leicester again, it's just a massive momentum swing, and you're not back to square one. But it's just indicative of how tough the league is and where we're at
Yeah.
as a squad.
Yeah. Sorry, I got it wrong. It's 25 points we're on Chelsea and 28. Sorry, I read the table wrong. I agree. I think we said before the Leeds game, these are the kind of games that we always think, we need to win. This is such a turning point in the season, and we always end up losing. The fact we won, like you say, is massive. And Southampton coming off of the back of a good result as well. We'll move on to Southampton game in a second, but just before we do that, let's finish the mid-season review. So just quickly, quick fire round. Which player have you been most impressed with so far in the halfway point?
Probably Tyrone Mings, to be honest. I think he's been pretty consistent. He's gone under the radar. He's still underrated by a lot of people. But I think, especially since Emery's come in, he's been brilliant. And to be honest, when I was looking at it before the podcast started, it's there's not a huge amount of people that are standing out in terms of have been consistent for a long period of time this season. So I'd go with Mings personally. Konsa's also much improved again this season. Seems to have found his mojo. And I think he's the only player that started every game as well. So it's nice to see him have a good run of good health.
Yeah, the only other addition I would have is Ashley Young as well. I think he's probably been, him and Mings have probably been 2 players that I've been most impressed with, been most consistent for me. I think Konsa's had some great games as well. And I think it's good to see him, because I was really worried about Konsa after last season. Really worried about him, and I think he's got so much talent there. And I think he's just going to flourish under Emery. I think time and time again to Smith, he was sort of relying on, and Gerrard, he was relying on Mings to be the outball and to be the player, playing forward. And I think that part of his game, I think is probably why he didn't get into the England squad. But I think under Emery, he can develop that. He can become better going forward with the ball, passing with the ball. Then I think that's going to add to him. We know he's a great defender, great one-on-one. Hardly ever gets dribbled past. He's quick, and he reads the game well. So yeah, and he's still young as well. And obviously Kamara is showing his ability as well now recently. But again, injuries, consistency, still probably not. And then apart from that, you're right. There's no one else, is there? I can't think of anyone else really at this present time. Yeah. I think Martinez has been a lot better recently as well. I think he had a iffy start to the season, but exactly. I think he's been better. And in terms of disappointment, then who have you been most disappointed with that you expected a lot more from this season? Apart from Douglas Luiz.
I won't say him because people think it's an agenda. I think Ollie Watkins, just in terms of his goal return, has been disappointing. I really like Ollie Watkins. I think there's a place for him at Aston Villa. I love his work rate. I love his attitude. And I do think the potential is there. But it's just been disappointing that he hasn't quite managed to turn some of those performances and his effort into a decent goal conversion. I think he's got 3 goals this season. It's just not enough. Simple as that. So that's why I'd have him in there as the biggest disappointment. If he can turn that into 6 or 7 and he ends up getting 15 for the season, then great. But hopefully things will turn for him under Emery. And I think if he gets a brace in a game or he goes on a bit of a run, again, confidence plays a big part in strikers and in finishing chances. But I continue to back him and I do like him, but we need more.
Yeah, I think that's very fair. I think his all-round games have been better in terms of assists, but I think his finishing has been poor. I don't think he's been helped with Gerrard's management style and the lack of chances being created. If you look at the stats, we're nowhere near the top sort of 10, 20 players in terms of creating chances. So I think that's a big factor. But also, I think his finishing has been poor, and I'd expected more from him and him to push on. And after defending him quite a bit on air, I think Sam's been critical of him, and I think it's been fair to say that he's probably warranted now given his performances. But the other big disappointment for me is Buendia. I've been a big advocate of him starting, and I really like him as a player. I think he's massively talented, and I think he's shown plenty of times his ability, but I just expect a little bit more from him in terms of impacting the game. He has these moments. I think he's one of these players. I've said before. I want him in the team week in, week out, just because he's, he might do 10 things he might do sort of 5 things in a game. 3 of them he'll lose the ball or misplace a pass, but 2 of them he'll create a chance. And that's why he's so important. But I think he's got the ability to be more consistent than that. I think he's the ability to impact the game a lot more. He works hard. He's a bit like James Milner in that respect. That I remember when Milner came back to us and demanded Neil and playing as a winger, he'd have bad games where he'd struggle. But he always worked hard. He never gave up, and he always impacted the game. And I think that's Buendia. Even against Leeds, I didn't think he had his best game, but he worked hard, won the ball back, fought, and I think that's a big attribute to have in a team. But I think going forward, the talent he's got, he needs to be the top. Getting a lot more assists, creating a lot more chances, and just being one of the best players outside the top 6. I think he's got that ability, and that's what I expect from him.
I think that's fair. I think that's a fair summary, to be honest.
The shouts in the comments, McGinn and Luca Dean, I think that's fair again. Luca Dean especially, I think, highest paid player in the club apparently. So, yeah, you'd expect more from him, although he's had good moments. Again, Moreno coming in probably isn't a good sign. But yeah, okay. I've got one more question, and we'll move on to Sam's game. What's been your standout game of the season so far? Which game have you enjoyed the most? Would you say?
Probably the Spurs win, just because we've taken the lead at Spurs a few times over the last few years, and taken the lead away at so-called top 6 teams, and not been able to close it out, not been able to get the 3 points. But that was like a thoroughly professional performance. We closed the game out really well. We got that all-important second goal. We were defensively solid, and we just looked like a team that knew how to win that day, which is a massive shift in such a short space of time from a team that was repeatedly losing just a few months ago. Brighton, quite similar, the way we shithoused towards the end of that and just made sure we got the 3 points, come rain or shine. So we've had a couple of really good away wins under Emery already, but you've probably got to say Spurs.
Yeah, I think that's a good one. I think Man United, obviously at home, finally beating them at home after a long period of time, is another one, as a few in the comments have said. But I think both performances for me, the two standout ones. Spurs, I agree. I completely agree. Very rarely do we put in a complete performance away from home against a top side like that, and be so in control of that game as well, and could have easily scored more. And just the midfield was amazing that game as well, which we talked about. But the Man United game for me has got to be the standout. Finally,
I had forgotten about that, to be honest.
Yeah,
I had forgotten about that.
So, well, it's my fault. I just put you on the spot there. I didn't tell you I was going to ask you that. But Emery's first game as well, wasn't it? And we were all thinking, what a first game, And the fact
it has been just so many years of hurt and last-minute goals against them and penalties that were never penalties. And I've probably been at every single one of those Man United games. So yeah, that was nice to finally break that curse.
Yeah. Well, let's look forward now. It looks like we're in a good place. Big game coming up now on Saturday, 3 p.m. kickoff. Rare 3 p.m. kickoff. We don't seem to have too many of them, but Southampton away. Coming off the back of a good result, Southampton, obviously, recently. Yeah. One of these weird teams that can look absolutely awful for 5 or 6 games and look like they shouldn't even be in the Premier League. They've never been in Championship, never mind the Premier League, and then go on a 3-4 game winning run. What do you make of them?
Well, we're definitely playing them at the wrong time, aren't we? They've just won 3 on the trot, including 2 cup wins against Palace and City, and then obviously a really good win away last week at Everton. I don't think they're that great side. I think defensively they can be got at. Saletasar and Salisu at the back for me aren't Premier League level. So I think if we impose our game and take the game to them, there's going to be opportunities there. I think their midfield is their strongest part of their team. Diallo, Ward-Prowse, and the new lad in the middle. I think, is it Lavia? He's only played a few times, but I watched him against City and I saw the highlights last week, and he looks like one hell of a player. So I think that'll be where the game's won and lost in the midfield. I mean, the obvious thing to say is don't give free kicks away anywhere near the edge of the box. But genuinely, it just continues to baffle me how teams aren't putting a man on the post when Ward-Prowse is taking these free kicks. So if we do concede a free kick, I will be absolutely raging, and it's a sackable offence for me if we don't have someone on the post. Because for him, it's like a penalty. He's just his conversion rate is outstanding, and I don't care that you're going to play everyone onside. He's going to score a goal if you don't. So just get someone on the post.
Yeah.
So that will frustrate me if that happens. But big game.
Did you see his goal against Everton where sort of the defender went sort of half and half? He sort of went to go to the post but didn't go to the post, and then he put Pickford off.
And it's like surely your job as a full-time player is to plan for that Saturday afternoon, that moment.
Yeah.
Why don't you know what you're doing?
Yeah, I mean, you saw. I don't know if you saw, but when they conceded the free kick, Pickford just went crazy. He was like, "Why? Why have you done that? Why have you given a free kick away there?" But yeah, that's going to be a big kick, a key part of the game. It'll be an interesting one. It's a weird one, Southampton. I really don't know which way it's going to go. We've had good results without playing well against them at Southampton, and we've also had some shockers as well.
They're going to be tough. If we can come away with 3 points, it will be a massive win. Massive.
Yeah, I thought I'm gonna. People are going to kill me for saying this, but I really hope Che Adams starts because I think he's awful. The amount of chances he misses, and now I've said that he's obviously going to score against us. But sorry about that. But yeah, I think he's been a big factor in why they've struggled because they have created chances and he's put really easy chances not away. He's missed them. I think they really struggle at both ends of the pitch, as you said. In terms of the Villa team changes, I don't think we had the press conference yet, so we're not really sure. But it looks like Watkins, Luca Dean might be struggling. Jacob Ramsey obviously back now in contention as well, coming off the bench against Leeds. Danny Ings on the way out. We do play up front.
Yeah, that's going to be interesting to see if Watkins is injured. What's he going to do up top? Obviously, Bailey can play up there, but I think he would have to change the way we play if Bailey's going to be the central striker. Does it mean there's room for Coutinho to come in and support Bailey? But yeah, I'd like to see Ramsey start. I think he makes a big difference to us, especially away from home. He just gets us up the pitch. He carries the ball really well. So whether he's coming off the left or in the middle, I'd love to see Ramsey get a run of games now, and it'll be interesting to see. I think Digne definitely out.
Look pretty bad. Yeah. I don't think from what I read, I don't think he needs surgery on his shoulder, but he may need a bit of a rest. For it to recover. But yeah, I think he'll be out. Obviously got Ashley Young, Matty Cash.
Interesting as well. Ashley Young, yeah.
Matty Cash is 50-50, I think, as well. So maybe Moreno will play. And then apart from that, we talked about Ramsey coming in, the striker. It's up in the air. I guess we'll see. So what's your prediction then for the game?
I'm going to back us to go there and win 2-0.
2-0. Yeah, I'm going to be a bit more cautious actually for once, and I'm saying 1-1 draw, just because I don't know who we're going to play up front. Looks like Danny Ings is gone. Yeah. Breaking news: Danny Ings has gone for £15 million. Sky Sports. There you go.
Been and gone home. It feels like yesterday I was at a wedding and we found out that he'd signed, and me and Jake were dancing around the dance floor singing Danny Ings songs, and now he's just gone and hasn't done a huge amount.
Yeah.
Bizarre.
Weird. I remember that the day we signed him, it just came out of nowhere, didn't it?
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, he's gone. There we go. Incoming, I suppose. Let's see what happens. Could be an interesting day. Could be doing another pod tomorrow with a new signing, hopefully. But yeah, we'll leave it at that. Thanks, Chadsy. Great to have you back on. You're going to be coming on a bit more regularly now, do you think?
If you'll have me and if you organise it at a convenient time.
Yeah, all right, mate. I will do. It was good to have you back on. Good to be back on after a bit of a break. We'll be back post Southampton game. We'll be back next week with the normal format. So look out for that. I'll put this on audio as well. But please do subscribe, like this video, subscribe to our YouTube channel. It's relatively still a new venture for us. We've all historically been quite audio only, but yeah. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. Let's hope for a 3 points this weekend. and up to Villa.
Villa.